Today on Screen It or Stream It, size does matter.
Man and The Wasp is rated PG-13 for some sci-fi action and violence.
The second movie featuring our favorite tiny superhero opens sometime in the aftermath of Captain America Civil War.
That means it is helpful to have seen the first Ant-Man and Captain America Civil War, though we don't think you'll be too lost if you haven't.
As a result of Scott Lang's decisions in those previous movies, he is at home under house arrest, having destroyed his Ant-Man technology so it won't fall into the wrong hands.
With only 3 days to go until its release, everything should be smooth sailing, which of course means that something is about to happen and complicate everything.
Scott has a dream that he is playing hide and seek with a little girl and sees a reflection of himself as the wife of scientist Hank Pym.
Disturbed by the experience, he calls a fugitive doctor and tells him about it. And the next thing you know, Scott has been kidnapped by Hank's daughter, Hope.
It turns out that Dr. Pym had been testing a quantum tunnel in an effort to rescue his wife, now missing in the quantum realm, for the past 30 years.
It wouldn't be a good superhero movie without a supervillain, so enter the mysterious ghost who has the ability to walk through walls and needs the quantum tunnel for their own purposes.
You get the idea from there. Chases, escapes, battles, close calls, witty banter, and frankly, the kind of fun we've all come to expect from a superhero movie.
Alright, so what are we going to rate this one?
Well, we think it's a great movie.
So the second installment of the Ant-Man, what I'm sure is going to be a series, because it did pretty good, and I hope so. I really enjoy these. I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than you did.
Maybe.
A little bit.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Just a tiny bit more than you did.
I see what you did there.
For me, this one went a little bit, I don't know if I want to call it campy or not, but it went a little bit sillier than the first one.
Not inappropriately so.
No, and the first one did not take itself, serious.
Well, he's a hero that's this big. How can you take that seriously?
But this one, to me, it seemed much more inundated, much more filled with, just silly happenings and silly things. And there's the characters. So Paul Rudd does a great job as Ant-Man. But then we've got not CIA, it was
FBI. The FBI agent.
The FBI agent is just ridiculous,
Yeah. I don't know what his issue was, but he wasn't right. It was funny.
Well, it was that close to being. Sorry, I got to stop doing that. It was really close to being too much. Yeah. But in no time did I ever feel like, it went too far.
Yeah, oddly, I never cringed when that guy came back. And he wasn't like in the movie. I mean, he showed up several times, but it didn't bother me any time when he did. It was fine. It was funny.
When there are a lot of characters, some of them are serious. Ghost is kind of serious.
So serious.
So serious. Why so serious? But most of the characters, even Hank Pym, who's serious for most of the time, he has some silly things, but
a couple of moments.
But Ant-Man, his crew of gangsters that are now working for him, the ex-cons that are now working for him. They have all these ridiculous, silly moments, but it's just the right amount, and it fits in. And honestly, to me, this felt more like a superhero movie to me, and it might be nostalgia, growing up in the '80s watching different superhero things. But to me, this one felt much more like a superhero movie, just because it had that kind of campy, kind of silly, and Marvel does a good job of usually keeping stuff lighthearted.
Right.
But I think this takes it, it's a little bit further, a little more step. And actually, we talked about Thor Ragnarok in the past. Everybody, just ranted and raved about it, and we were going, it wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Because
Thor Ragnarok went silly. And
in a different way, though, and that's what bothered us. And hey, it's our opinion. Take it or leave it.
I don't even really know if it was a different way, but you had previous Thors set up.
Right, his character had been set up, and
everything just changed,
and it felt different. And to me, it felt different, like it turned on a dime and was suddenly different. Not as in he had grown to become this silly person. Because he was kind of silly in Thor Ragnarok. I mean, like it or hate it, he was a very lighthearted Thor in the face of, spoiler alert, his dad dying and getting banished from his home, and, the evil sister coming back and all this dark stuff that's happening. Why is he cheerful and happy? It just didn't sound right, didn't feel right to me. Anyway, Ant-Man, totally different thing. We start with him under house arrest, and he's pretty bummed about that, and he, can't see his kid as much as he wants. Though that was actually kind of a refreshing thing, that the family was sort of working.
Even when he's bummed, he's still wisecracking, and he's kind of a happy-go-lucky guy. So even when downtrodden, he's.
I don't know. It just didn't strike me as that silly. Maybe there's a little more edge to it.
I mean, it did as.
It fit in the context of what was happening. So, because he would jab at whoever.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, yeah, he would make a jab, make a quip. Mm-hmm. But so the ex-cons were silly.
Love them.
You can't deny that.
They were silly in the first movie, right? And so that's still true for them.
The FBI agent was silly. And so there was actually two villains in this, or I guess it's like two factions. So you have Ghost, and she has this. She's the one with all the white stuff and the red eyes and can phase in and out of stuff, and she's like the super powered villain. Mm-hmm. But then you've got this like arms dealer. He's not arms. He's black market tech dealer.
Yeah, I liked him,
and he is ridiculous, and he is over the top and silly. And again, if it had been in Thor, if it had been in Doctor Strange, I would be looking at it going, oh boy, but here it's in the world it's in. It seems to fit and it seems to work. I think back to Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was silly, but it's in a silly place with silly people, and it's fine. And I kind of feel like Ant-Man does the same thing. It's okay to be silly, and like you said, it's not to the extent of it hurts the movie or it takes away from the action or the story or whatever. But they have those moments, and when the ex-cons show up, there's going to be something silly done.
There's going to be a lighthearted thing said, or he's going to tell you about his cousin Ramel. He was back in his place and he did this thing, and you just every time that I love that. They did that more in the first movie. I appreciated they did it once in the second movie and then let it go. It was nice to have that because that's just that guy. It's his character, and it's hilarious.
Well, they even acknowledged it in the second Ant-Man. He gets to go and because every time he tells a story, he can't just tell the important thing. The entire thing.
Yeah, he's got this. All right, back at the beginning.
And it's always in some horrible situation where we need an answer now.
Yeah.
Time is of the essence. Give us an answer, and he's telling his life story. And there's a scene where he gets going, and they're like, "Nah, you just gotta let it go. It happens."
You just gotta let him finish.
When he gets started, you just gotta let him finish.
So I had noticed something really funny that it's one of those things you can't possibly know till you watch the movie. Of course, I don't guess you can know anything till you watch the movie. Anyway, this one, the trailers had a really weird thing that almost everything in the trailer was not in the movie. Well, it was. The moments were there, but there were lines of dialogue in the trailers cut completely out of the movie. Several of them, not just one or two, several.
I forgot. I was going to ask you about that. Was the you go high or no? You go low. I go high.
I'll go high. You go low. In the trailer, not in the movie.
Yeah.
She seems intense in the trailer, not in the movie. And there was at least one more that I remember there. Oh, Ant-Man and the Wasp teaming up, not in the movie. Now maybe that just made for a better trailer, and I'm cool with that because it meant that when the scene happened, I'm kind of waiting for this because I've seen the trailer too many times. And then it was a little different. And you saw where it could have gone, which was kind of neat. But it was funny that usually there'll be one or two things in the trailer that you miss, but no, they cut a bunch of stuff. So, and I'm wondering if that was that those moments as played maybe felt a little too lighthearted, and they thought, oh, let's dial it back a little. I don't know.
Or maybe they figured
they did them just for the trailer.
Maybe they did, or maybe it was stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor, and hey, that's still good. Let's use that. I don't know how it got there, but I was going to ask you. I forgot because I was waiting for that moment where he, you go low, I'll go high, and then that never came, and I was like,
But I remembered, and it was after the movie ended. I was thinking, wait a minute, where? And then I remembered, it was at this part, kind of near the end, fighting happening. But yeah, that's where it would have been. But nope, just not even there.
I was a little bit worried in the trailer. So the Wasp, Hope, seemed very, very reluctant to team up with him, very agitated with him, and I'm like, we're gonna have all this, horrible tension, and she doesn't want
drama and angst.
Which that was there, but it was very minor, and
it was appropriate.
she, they were teaming up, they were working together, again, I hate that they do that in the movies a lot. You know, you get a team of people, and you've got Hank, and you got Hope, and you've got Scott, and you know they're kind of team. You throw the ex-cons in as kind of, you know, the out there guys, but a lot of times in movies, you know, the first one will establish this team, and in the second one we're going to break them all apart, and something's going to happen, and you know then they got to come back together. I'm like, oh, it's going to do that again.
Guardians of the Galaxy. But it was fun when they did it.
I was afraid they were going to say, oh, we're going to do that again, but they didn't. I mean, they kind of did, but I mean it was over like that, and we're back to doing what we need to do.
Yeah, they were. It was more that they were miffed at each other for stuff that happened between the movies, but they weren't like enemies forever or anything. They were just, you know, a little terse.
I did have a problem with Lawrence Fishburne's character. Like, I could never figure out what side he was on. And it was like he couldn't figure out what side he was on.
Yeah.
And now I like Lawrence Fishburne. I actually like he does a really good job playing the character. But I don't know, he just kind of wishy-washy in the thing, because he's like, this needs to be done now. Well, we need to kill somebody. Oh, no, never mind. And wait a minute, you just said it had to be done now. Like, where does your line, you know, exist? And he kind of wishy-washy, and I kind of wonder if something got cut that would explain that. But
it definitely makes him less, like, I wouldn't consider him a villain in any sense of the...
There was a time
he was a foil.
Like,
for a minute there,
yeah.
You're like, oh, he's a villain. Well, no, he's just sort of a foil more than a villain. He's got an opposing viewpoint.
Well, he's another scientist, you know, up on Hank Pym's level, and honestly, the first time you're like, oh, they're going to end up teaming up and working together, but then, oh no, he's the villain. He's going to be, like you said, he's going to be the foil. He's going to be
brilliant mastermind.
He's going to be the opposite Hank Pym, you know.
And nope,
he's going to be the reverse Hank Pym. and then you think that for a little bit, then no, they're going to team up, and then no, maybe and. I don't know. I couldn't figure out, and it really didn't seem like the character could figure out where he was going. So I didn't care for that as much. I didn't really care for the ghost character either. The phasing stuff was kind of neat, and they made some really neat fight scenes with her.
They really did.
Phasing in and out, and them shrinking and growing, you know, rapidly. Made for some really neat stuff. But at the same time, she is like super hardcore, like dark, like, I must kill everybody to accomplish my mission. And there's no reason for that.
She was desperate.
Well, I know she was desperate, but there's nothing in her upbringing. I mean, because she's raised by this person.
She had a traumatic childhood.
True. A lot of people do. They don't become mass murderers just for... I mean, she
didn't
at no
mass
point
murder anybody to be... Well, they did train her to be they weaponized her.
At no point in time did she even like hesitate to remorse or to... She didn't like, I need to kill these people to get my job done. Okay, and it's not like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. Oh no, I really need. It's just like, okay, let's do it. And I know she's a villain, but for as like I said, as lighthearted and fun as this show was, that seemed very, very dark for I just need to kill this person, then oh well, they need to die because I can do what I need to do. And I don't know, that just didn't... It felt like she was in a different universe from all of the other characters. All the other characters had even the bad guys.
You mean a quantum universe? You mean it felt like she was just out of phase with the story we had going on? I can do this all day.
No. But even so, like the arms dealer, he's silly. He's a bad guy, right? He's the bad guy.
He was a proper villain.
He was villainous, but he was still lighthearted and silly. And even, oh, get him. Oh, we're doing this bad. We need to kill these people. But there was some humor in him. There was some lightness, and there wasn't any. Like she had not one like ounce of humor or anything. And I'm not saying I want the villains to be slapstick and funny and all that.
Yeah.
But it really felt like to me she didn't belong in.
She did deliver her first line with a smile.
Didn't feel like she belonged in there to me. And not bad. It wasn't horrible. It's not breaking the movie for me or anything like that. But it just, I don't know. It's something I could.
It was interesting because this is one of the few times, and you may be able to correct me here in a second. I don't know of a lot of superhero movies that I can think of offhand that did not have where the supervillain had like an evil plan, like a big evil plan to murder a lot of people for some kind of personal gain or whatever. It was a much smaller, more personal plan the villain had. They needed something and were desperate to make that happen. for their own benefit. Yeah, they didn't really care who they stomped on, but it didn't involve sacking cities or destroying the world or, that. So, I don't know. It was a much more specified villain plot than, you usually don't get one that's that concise.
No, and I think Ant-Man does that well, because it's the same thing with the first one. They didn't... Well, it had possible global implications later on.
Down the road, yeah. Well,
at that moment, it was just kind of one guy.
Just trying to make a deal.
And I like that. We've talked about that a bunch. When you get too big and too grand, it just, I don't know, it gets muddled. And Ant-Man doesn't do that. You get sequels, it's got to be bigger, right?
Yeah.
And a little worried about that, but...
It was only a little bigger.
Let's talk about the shrinking.
Yeah.
So, in the first Ant-Man...
There were some moments.
In the first Ant-Man, there were some really neat moments where they did a good job of getting you a sense of scale. When he shrinks down in the bathtub for the first time, and it looks, like they're down like this giant hallway.
They didn't do that as much in this one.
They didn't do that in this one.
Not as much.
They didn't do that, but what they did when they shrunk things down, and I thought it was almost, and I guess as Ant-Man and the Wasp kind of grow into their superpowers and get used to what they can do. But they're much more fluidly using their ability to shrink and grow.
As long as the regulator's working.
And at the same time, not only their ability, but all of the stuff. They have the car. It's hilarious. The car is shrinking and growing. The building, the laboratory, they just shrink the building down and take it with them. And, and that's very comical in itself. I don't think you could do that in a serious movie. It would stand out. There were some great moments in this movie made from the ability
size,
to shrink and grow.
Yeah, shrink and grow thing.
And one of the things that I didn't really recognize it as much in the first one. I don't know if it was there or not, and I just don't remember it. But the sound, because when they shrank things down, they also shrank the sound.
Yeah.
So they went through multiple different cars that they shrank and grew throughout the show, and the car will be running along and it's grumbling and deep growl, and then when it shrinks, it's got the and it's that was hilarious. So there was a scene where he fell in the water one time, and he was shrunk down, and you just get a little and I don't know, there was so much humor in that for me for some reason, that when he hit the water.
No, it wasn't just you, the whole audience. We all liked that.
Overall, I really did enjoy this a lot. Yeah. Again, it's still a superhero movie, and there's a lot of them out there, but to me it feels different. I think the campiness and the fun kind of set it apart, and I don't know, the lightheartedness, like I said, it reminds me of old-time superhero movies where they didn't take everything as seriously. And again, the stakes aren't, maybe somebody's life is on the line, but it's not oh God, the world's going to end in 20 seconds if we don't do this.
Right.
And there's things you can gripe about.
They did have that one eye roller though.
Yeah.
Which I don't even need to bother you with it. It was just an convenient device to make this tension happen that we don't really even need for this plot. Whatever.
But again, overall I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. Had a lot of laughs.
It was fun, funny.
Liked the characters. I love the ex-cons.
They're great.
They're kind of the Three Stooges, really, I guess.
A little bit. Yeah.
But no, it's really fun. I think it's a great one to go see at cinemas.
Yes.
Even if it, not just based on the cinematic merit, which I enjoyed the movie greatly, but just to get, because of the shrinking and the giant scale and the tiny scale, I think the big screen kind of adds to that. So definitely a good one to go see in theaters.
I agree completely. But if you're not wanting to go to theaters, what do you have for a streaming option?
All right. Batman.
Which one? How many incarnations of Batman have there been, first of all? So which one are you talking about?
So I'm going way back. We're going Adam West.
Whoa! Blast from the past.
60s, there's actually a Batman, the movie.
Yes, I know the one.
With Adam West, but the TV series too, and I love that. And it's actually more campy than...
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's ridiculous campy.
The heroes and villains have the bright colors on their costumes. Robin wears no pants. Yeah, it is out there.
But at the same time, just outright fun and silly. And honestly, when I watched Ant-Man, to me, and I could be totally wrong, but to me, that looks like a movie where everyone had a good time
on set.
Except maybe
I can
Ghost.
see that.
She looked miserable.
Yeah, poor thing.
But everybody else looked like, that would be a really fun set to be a part of. And I could see that on the Adam West, old Batman too. I like all Batmans, but to kind of match and go with Ant-Man, I would say the 60s Adam West Batman.
Well, I actually made a difficult decision on this one, and I am not going with a superhero movie. But it does involve like magically larger than life things, so it works. And I forgot to look up when this was. I know it was from the mid-'80s somewhere. But boiling this down to what it is, you got a couple of heroes that are being thwarted by just about everyone they run into for one reason or another. And they're trying to essentially rescue someone that they can't quite get that to work out. And, of course, villains intervene, have their own purposes. I'm going with Lady Hawk from the 80s. Great movie for like a great B-movie type. Of course, Rutger Hauer, Michelle Pfeiffer, Matthew Broderick when he was fresh off of Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Michelle Pfeiffer in that?
Yeah, she was the lady.
So she's in both of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she was also in, and that's what made me think of it. It was like, oh yeah, this is not the first time you've been stuck in a weird place.
It's been a long time since
So, yeah, and basically Lady Hawk is the story of this couple. They love each other so much. Rutger Hauer is the, like classic hero type. He's the knight in shining armor, and she's the beautiful damsel, and then they get cursed by this jealous priest. I think he was a priest. So by day, she becomes a hawk, and by night, he becomes a wolf, and then she becomes a human again. So they're always together, but never together, kind of. So it's kind of this sort of tragic. So like right at sunrise or sunset, they can just see each other changing, and then they can't talk to each other. And it's like they're trying to break the curse, is what that whole movie is about. And of course, Matthew Broderick is lighthearted and silly in that movie, and it's got some questionable special effects, but you just have to take it for what it is. It's a fun story, very fantastical, not really superhero-y, but it's a fun one, and kind of gave me a very vaguely similar vibe. Not like it's not the exact thing, but it's made me think of it a little. But that is all our time, unless you've got anything else. Thank you so much for watching Screen It or Stream It.
And remember, don't take your kids to the movies on Tuesday nights, because that's when we go.